The narration starts with a disturbing experience in the beach. An elderly man happened to see one of the young college girls who was floundering in the waves. He did this without hesitation and jumped at him, fake savior style, and administered CPR. This man happened to be a doctor, and he was able to drag Casey back to the brink of death. Casey was appreciative and believed him to be her hero and had no idea he had some dark motives. In order to have a closer approach to Casey, he volunteered to take her and her mother to the hospital to have a checkup. Between the mask of inquiry, however, he was after personals, where I mean her home, her school, and every scrap of information that would enable him to intrude himself into her life. Very soon he began to hang around her campus and spy. This disturbing stare was spotted by the boyfriend of Casey when one day he stood up and hit him. But when the boy came to know that this man had saved the life of his girlfriend at one time, he felt guilty, and he was at once apologetic, wanton of forgiveness. The elder man, who was playing at the part of a kind and forgiving man, smiled and said he did not mind at all. He even said that he could receive another hit without minding. This feigning humility turned him into a noble gentleman to all. Casey later on informed her mother about this nice man. Her mother, Laura, had been single long enough, and Casey, in her naivety, sexually recommended that her mother accord this man a love opportunity. Laura was hesitant to get into dinner with him because she did not want to disappoint her daughter. She had not anticipated much, and as soon as she dropped her defenses, his words and charms snared her like a toad in the web. What she was not aware of was that he was never actually talking sweet about love. He was merely making a calculated step towards getting even nearer with Casey. The same night, the man, due to his obsession, went to the house and prepared a drink of lethal chemicals. In the darkness, he broke into the home of Casey and put the concoction in her drink and escaped without being noticed. Later in the night, Casey had it, thirsty and in the dark. By morning, she was ruthlessly ill and threw up uncontrollably. Fearing, Laura had rung the same man who had brought it all about. He came in with haste, simulating to inspect Casey. He even took a huge sample of her blood by saying that he had to run tests. Rather than having some form of analysis run, he created a counterfeit medical report. The following day, he invited Casey to the hospital and presented her with the results, which was telling her that she was very sick. Casey, in his heartbroken state, could not comprehend how it had brought about this. She desperately struck back and broke up with her boyfriend without understanding that this is what the man wanted. Casey was now starting to have the feeling that something was very wrong. The new boyfriend of her mother could sometimes talk in a disturbing manner, the kind of stuff that no man is supposed to talk to a young woman. Fear set in, and she pleaded with her mother to make a break with him. But Laura, blinded with love and could not think such things, brushed off the warnings of her daughter. When she challenged the man, who should have been angry, he even consoled her, that he talked to her with patience and affection. He implied that Casey was only becoming an adult and developing her attitude. His indifference faded away Laura's doubts, and she fell in love with him even more. In desperation, Casey contacted her uncle Roger, who was distant in the hope that he would persuade her mother to open her eyes. Roger ran home alarmed and was determined to save his sister and niece. The man moved again, however, before he could do so. He showed up at the house of Laura, already having done research on the background of Roger online. By the time Roger came, the fellow had slipped in wearing a jovial smile and nothing seemed to be amiss. To the annoyance of Casey, her uncle soon had lowered his guard on hearing a few flattering words. In a few minutes, Roger and the man were laughing like old friends. However, what Laura and Casey did not realize is that Roger was not fooled at all, but was just playing a game. Roger was determined to get the truth, and so he went directly to the hospital where the man was supposed to be working. His suspicions were proved after a couple of inquiries at the front desk. The man was not even an employee there. Still rattled by this finding, Roger at once attempted to ring his sister, but fate played a cruel trick. It was at this very time that Laura had left her phone on the dining table to go to the bathroom, where she was totally oblivious to the desperate warning call. The older man did not lose time after Roger had made a desperate call in form of a voicemail. Before Laura could hear him, he erased the message, his mind already determined. Roger had become an enemy, and enemies had to be done away with. This night he had crept into the home of Laura with a syringe of anesthesia in his hand. Never had any chance. He fell, and in a few seconds, under the influence of concussion. The man pulled his body to the trunk of his car, drove back home himself, and dumped him into the bathtub coldly. There, in that chilling accuracy which causes him no pain, he fused the body of Roger in acid, leaving no trace of him. The world had now thrown but one barrier in his path to his demoniac ambition: Laura herself. Superficially, he was about to get married with the lady he said he loves, but in the real sense, he was staring at her daughter. He then took Laura off after the wedding ceremony. At home, Casey was just about to lose his world. Her former boyfriend called, and he had also attended the hospital to take his own checkup. His findings were quite normal, not at all as the man had informed Casey. She ran home to the house of the man, and to her horror, it was very empty, only a kind of a temporary shelter habit. She came across an article in a newspaper in a drawer where a newlywed husband had killed his wife once. Horror washed over her. Is it her mother who was supposed to be the next victim? It was panic time as she dialed the phone of her mother desperately, but there was no response. She, in her turn, called on the police but was considered delusional. Nobody cared to believe her. Casey was left with no option but to leap into her car and drive as fast as she can to the villa to get her own way in saving her own mother. At the same time, Laura was getting deeper into the trap. At the villa, the man tied up her blindfold, running his smooth lies and his fake tenderness over her as he made up a romantic surprise. He took her out into the balcony, the terrifying height of which was sufficient to ensure the fatal event of a fall. He had one idea in mind, and that was to push it once, and it was all over. Just as he was going to strike, he heard Casey burst in the room. The man swiveled around with fury in his eyes. The obsession took over, and he leaped at Casey, throwing her on the bed in a frenzied effort to take possession of her. What he was not aware was that Laura had not fallen. Her strength of will alone enabled her to hang on the balcony edge. She picked up a wine bottle and used her all to smash it on the head of the man who caused her terror and rage. The police eventually came moments later. The nightmare was over. The man with the trail of lies, fear, and blood caused by his obsession had been arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment in prison due to attempted murder. Casey and Laura survived. Their friendship was even stronger than ever. And in case you like this recap and would like more exciting stories, you should remember to like this post, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell in order not to miss the next twist.